What is up, everybody? Bootman here, and we are back with another Marvel Snap video. And in this video, I wanted to talk about Marvel Snap pricing, but even more so, some really bad logic that's being used within the community. And I'm someone who, I don't know, I get frustrated with logical fallacies, and I think it's important to discuss because this game is growing and we want Second Dinner to make certain changes, and I don't think we're having the right discussion. So I wanna point out the flawed logic and then suggest a few things, all right? But before we get started, if you're new here, hi, my name is Chris, AKA Bootman, and if you love Marvel Snap as much as I do, and trust me, I love this game, I'm obsessed, can't stop playing it, even though I have some criticisms, but if you love it as much as I do, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell. We are trying to hit 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, and we're so close. We're so close. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button and make sure you head down to the description, join our awesome Discord community, come hang out. And also down in the description is my Twitter. Follow me over there at BootmanMSTZ. I am doing monthly giveaways for season passes and you don't wanna miss it, but you gotta be following me on Twitter. All right, anyways, let's jump into this. So the other day, I kind of defended spending some money in Marvel Snap. I gave you a little bit of my background. I discussed, how I write about personal finance, how I've repaired my credit, my own personal finances. I save, I invest. I'm like full on adulting over here, all right? And I'm like, hey, let's try to support the game, pay 10 bucks for the season pass when we're able to, right? And I'm trying to give away some to help out and everything like that, right? But when it comes to the pricing, a lot of us have our complaints about the pricing. As you can see here, here is the Starlit Connection bundle, all right? With these beautiful, different variants. And then we also have the other variants, very expensive. So on the cheap side, they're 700 gold. And if we look at the gold pricing, right, that's $10 per variant. So my argument has been, and I have a background in sales and marketing, okay? That's what I do, all right? And I have argued that they should make these cheaper, okay? Maybe do some of this stuff in the Starlit Connection a la carte, maybe make these variants like affordable, because if we make them cheaper, more people will buy them, they will make that money back. Now, I did have a comment the other day from somebody who has worked in like online marketing, something like that with games. And I invited them on to discuss it because I'm very curious to pick their brain. I don't know if they got back to me. I'll need to check that. But anyways, the logic that I've seen floating around, and I've heard this multiple times, and this has been driving me nuts, so crazy that I had to turn my camera on and make a video. I've heard multiple people use this logic. Second Dinner knows what they are doing, so they have a good reason for pricing things the way they do. Oh, this hurts me. It hurts me so bad, okay? So let's talk about a couple logical fallacies real quick, okay? Debate and argument are a huge part of our lives, all right? We're arguing constantly, we're debating constantly. Like even if you're not like in a heated argument, right? We're trying to sway opinions, we're trying to get people to understand and see things the way that we do, right? We don't say things unless we think that we're right about it. But the reason why it's important to understand logical fallacies is for two reasons. One is to sway people, okay? To get people on our side. Two is so we don't get lost, and I don't wanna use the word manipulated, but we don't fall for terrible logic, okay? Because other people use logical fallacies, and typically logical fallacies, it sounds like a good argument, but if you take a couple seconds to dissect it, you see that it is a bad argument, okay? So here are two logical fallacies that make it a bad argument to say, Second Dinner knows what they are doing, so they are pricing things the way they do, okay? First logical fallacies is the appeal to authority, okay? This is a fallacy where we say this person is in a higher position of status than us or than you, therefore they must be right, okay? The way I look at logical fallacies, when somebody lays that out for me, I'm like, okay, can I think of any instances when somebody is in a higher position of status or authority and they haven't been right? Yes, like a million. I could think of a million of those, all right? Like, do you remember when you were a kid and your parents would say, because I said so? all right? That was an authoritative logical fallacy. They were saying, I am a parent, therefore I always know what's right. And now that I'm an adult, I don't know about you, but we probably look back on our childhoods and we're like, our parents were wrong about quite a few things, okay? So it is poor logic to say that just because this company is doing something, they know what they are doing is right 100% of the time. Can you think, can you think of a single company in the history of your life on this planet Earth where a company has made a bad decision? Don't worry, I'll wait. Like, let's think of like environmental disasters, you know, like the BP oil spill, right? Did that company make the best decisions? Should we say that just because they're in authority, they made the right decisions? Let's look at the financial crash of 2008, right? And maybe like you're probably like, oh, Chris, you're giving extreme examples. These are just the examples off the top of my head to point out why the appeal to authority is a logical fallacy and we cannot use it. We cannot say second dinner is running things, therefore what they do is always right. Okay, second logical fallacy is the appeal to popularity. This logical fallacy says a bunch of people believe this thing or a bunch of people are doing this thing, therefore it is correct, okay? Like, think about that for a second. Do you know how many people believe that the earth is flat in 2022? Do you know that they have like entire conventions for people who believe that the earth is flat? You can find thousands, nay, you can find millions, all right? So my background, like before starting this gaming YouTube channel, I did a lot of stuff debunking conspiracy theories, explaining pseudoscience, bad science, and you have to use a lot of this stuff. But like, look at like QAnon, okay? We cannot say because everybody is doing a thing, because everybody is believing a thing, it is correct. So when it comes to these, one of the appeal to popularity fallacies I see floating around is, well, this is how all free-to-play games are, right? So it's saying, like, remember, again, let's go back to when you were a kid. Remember people saying, if everybody was jumping off a bridge, would you do it too, right? Just because everybody else is doing something does not make it a good idea, all right? So if nothing else, like I may be wrong, I may be 1,000% wrong, but even if I am wrong, you cannot battle wrong arguments with logical fallacies because you are not making a strong argument, okay? So if there wants to be a debate about the pricing, like I mentioned, there was somebody who left a comment, they said, you know, this is based on research and data, right? Like, cool, let's have a debate. But I just really had to talk about these logical fallacies. So hopefully now, if you guys hear people saying, you know, well, they, you know, they're running this game, they must do everything right. No, companies make mistakes. I think a prime example that's currently in the news right now is Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk bought Twitter and he's in the news every other day for making insane decisions. All right. So we're saying, oh, and I've heard it with that too, right? People are like, oh, well, this guy's a billionaire, therefore he must be the smartest person in the world, okay? And I don't even have time. I don't even have time to get into the randomness of who you are, what family you're born into, and the luck that has to take place to get to certain positions, okay? I do not have the time for that. But Elon Musk right now is a prime example of spending $44 billion on a company that was worth much less, not exactly a great decision, and is now making bad decisions with that company. But I see people saying, well, he's the guy who owns the company, therefore everything he does is right. No, that's not how these things work, okay? So now let's switch screens real quick because I want to give you a couple books to take a look at. Wrong screen, okay. So two books that I highly recommend. One of them, this one right here, I believe, was on my list of 7 books to read if you're better at Marvel Snap. So before I kind of dissect this book and explain it, you gotta understand, I'm somebody who had a generalized anxiety disorder for most of my life. It's mainly under control now. But anyways, a lot of us, part of human nature is to feel in control. We want to be in control. We want to believe that people in authority are making decisions because they know that they are right. We want to believe that they know something that we don't know because if not, we're all in a bunch of trouble, right? This is just how we've evolved. We want to believe that the people in charge know what they are doing. The truth is, and it's something that's actually helped with my anxiety, is understanding that there is so much randomness and chaos in daily life, okay? Like this has helped me out a ton because I'm able to accept it, all right? Sometimes, I hate to break it to you, sometimes the people in charge don't know exactly what they are doing. They are trying their best, and I appreciate that, I respect that, but sometimes they make bad decisions, and we need to be okay with that, because once we are able to accept that, we can start having conversations, and Second Dinner does a great job listening to the community. But when people are just defending and saying like, oh, well, these people are infallible and always make the right decisions, we cannot criticize what they're doing with these, certain things. Like, we can't do that. So anyways, the first one is everything is obvious once you know the answer. All right, that's the full name. I don't know why it doesn't say it right here. One of my favorite books, I actually had this author, Duncan Watts, on my podcast where I interviewed a bunch of like nonfiction authors because that's my jam. All right, so he is a sociologist and a researcher, right? And what like kind of like the subtitle suggests, how common sense fails us, right? Like, for example, if I were to ask you, like, why is Harry Potter one of the best-selling books of all time? People use circular logic. They're like, because it's Harry Potter, of course it was gonna be a big hit, right? No, right? Nobody knew that. That is why J.K. Rowling was shut down by so many publishers, because people did not know it was going to be a big hit. So this is one of the biases, hindsight bias, right? Where we look back on something and say, oh yeah, well, of course that was gonna happen all along. One of my favorite examples that's discussed in this book is the Mona Lisa, right? The Mona Lisa, one of the most valuable, most famous paintings in the world. That painting was not known. Nobody cared about that painting for years, for ages, until someone stole that painting. Then the virality of the news story and everything that went along with it, that is what made that painting famous, okay? This is a great book to understand how there's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to like music, books, TV shows, video games. I've talked to my son about this, right? How there's a lot of randomness that goes along with it. It's really easy to say like, that circular logic. Well, of course this video game was gonna blow up. Just look at it, right? There are a million other exact copies of a lot of different other video games that didn't take off. A great example is when you look at little indie games and you're like, wow, this thing really took off. Even though they're good, they're well designed, right? Like, there's reasons that they made it and others didn't. And by the way, this dives into like the myth of meritocracy and stuff, and people who are successful, right place, right time. There's a lot of luck involved. This is like one of my things. Like, there's another book called Success and Luck by Robert Frank. I had him on my podcast too. These are just great things if you're interested, okay? So anyways, everything is obvious once you know the answer. How common sense fails us. So again, going back to the logical fallacies, right? We believe that, oh, well, it's common sense to make these things high price because then you make more money. Well, something else that they talk about in this book is you don't know that. Like, I know a lot of you watching this, you appreciate, you respect science. With science, with the scientific method, you have to run experiments numerous times. You have to get a decent data set, okay? I have been gaming for most of my life, well over 20 something years now, right? And so I've been here since free-to-play games started coming out, right? And there are plenty of games that made a ton of money when free to play and the little bundles and like cosmetics you can get were a lot cheaper, right? But and they succeeded. An example I'm thinking of is Dota 2, right? I remember when Dota 2 came out, the skins, the bundles, they were so cheap and affordable. How do I know this? Because I was broke as hell during the time, and I used to buy them up, and that game is still one of the biggest games in the world, all right? So we do have proven models. I think like there is an argument to be had about, how big the company it is and how much they're able to lower the prices. It's almost like a Walmart. When you're big enough, you can undercut competitors, blah, 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 blah. But anyways, we do not see these experiments being ran. So if I was Second Dinner, for example, what I would do is some A/B testing, right? We have X amount of people playing Marvel Snap, okay? The people in group A, they get the normal pricing. They get the normal pricing of all these variants, all these bundles, whatever, right? And then with group B, we give it to them for a lot cheaper. We run that for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is, see which one is more. Now, there are things going on behind the scenes that I will never know about, right? Maybe they can't afford to do one of those experiments right now. Maybe they have to be profitable. Maybe they're not making a profit yet based on all the investments that went into this. So many different things. But the point of this video is to stop using bad arguments and logical fallacies, okay? But remember, we do not know the answer unless experiments are ran multiple times, right? So like, for example, going back to like hit movies, books, TV shows, whatever it is, those are kind of impossible to run because we'd have to get into like the multiverse and see how this scenario would have played out a million different ways to see if it would have always been successful. All right, this video is getting longer than I thought, so let me show you the last one. This one too, right here, the Drunkard's Walk, How Randomness Rules Our Lives. This is a great book. It's a little math heavy, so some of it goes over my head because I am not a math guy, but Leonard Lodnow, one of my favorite authors, he writes great books, and this is like one of his best books, but he explains how much randomness there is. And it also debunks that logical fallacy of the appeal to authority. And he argues about it regularly. Like I say this all the time, right? So think about movie studios, think about book publishers, think about TV studios, okay? These people are paid millions and millions and millions of dollars. They're making so much more money than most of us will ever even see or dream of in our lives, right? They're getting paid because they are the best at what they do, all right? Well, something that, Leonard Lodnow points out is if this was true, we would never have a movie flop, we would never have a book flop, we would never have music flop, we would never have TV shows flop. Do you see what I mean? These people are also being ruled by randomness. And then what sucks is when randomness somehow makes something successful, like how many movies or books or TV shows were relatively unknown and then they popped years later. They became a cult classic. You see what I mean? So everybody was calling the person stupid at the time, the producers, the directors, the screenwriters, whatever it was, they were calling them dumb at the time, and now they're being lauded as geniuses. You see what I mean? So there are people making a lot of money and they are playing with a lot of guesswork, but this is where the appeal to authority comes in too, because a lot of these people are in charge and like it's completely random. Like we need to understand that when we look at like the financial crash of like 2008, there are the richest people in the world on Wall Street who made a lot of terrible decisions, okay? I talk about resulting on here. There are people who are making risky bets, and if they pay off, we call them a genius. If they don't pay off, we call them an idiot, right? So think about these things. But anyways, to circle back and just kind of wrap this up, is this pricing for Marvel Snap good, reasonable, bad, whatever? All I know is it's not affordable for the average person. And all I know is that the people using the argument that second dinner is in charge, therefore they're always making the right decisions, that is a logical fallacy. So if you want to defend the pricing of the stuff in Marvel Snap, if you want to defend that, people who aren't whales, if you want to defend that they should not be able to afford on a regular basis some little cosmetics, please come to the table with better arguments than second dinner is in charge, therefore they know what they're doing, all right? I had to get that out of the way. This is just something I'm very passionate about. I want people to have better arguments. It's something that, I want my son to be better at as he grows up. He's about to start high school next year, he's gonna be a freshman. But again, we don't wanna be swayed by bad arguments. Whether it's Marvel Snap, whether it's other things in our lives, we need to be able to spot logical fallacies. If you want more book recommendations on logical fallacies, how to be a better debater, whatever, let me know down in the comments. I'm more than happy to give out suggestions. I love books. I read hundreds of books a year, so just hit me up. This video may flop, I don't know, but I think some of you will appreciate it. So if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new, again, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell. I'm usually breaking down decks and cards and things like that, and we're having a good time. But I had to get this off my mind. Also, if you're new, head down to the description, join the Discord server, come hang out, and make sure you're following me on Twitter at BootmanMSTZ. That way you don't miss any upcoming giveaways, and I tweet a lot. It's pretty fun. All right, so anyways, that's all I got for this video. Have an amazing rest of your day. I got one more video for you, so I'll see you next time.